finish this minor in 2 classes, which shouldn't be a problem. You never know. You can finish it today. You can never tell. You can never do. These things happen. Okay. So we learned about Leis Machshava B'Yisrael. Let's do it. 3 different levels of reality: finite reality, infinite reality, and etzem. Right? The only thing that exists absolutely is etzem. Everything else exists because etzem wants it to. Now, just parenthetically, to talk about a ratzon and etzem is itself a contradiction in terms, because ratzon is already a power of the soul as opposed to the soul itself. But since ratzon is so powerfully connected to the soul itself, as opposed to sight or speech or something like that, so we do talk about a ratzon. Rabbi Shab talks about this at great length in the beginning of Samach Vav. The Tainug and ratzon, 2 different levels of which comes first, which is higher. Generally, we say that Tainug produces ratzon, pleasure produces ratzon. The reason I want something is it gives me pleasure. I can acquire a pleasure. I want to acquire that pleasure, so that there's such a thing, an acquired taste. Right? Someone decides that it's important to be able to like Scotch, because if he likes Scotch whiskey, so people will think he's cool. So he develops a taste for Scotch whiskey. Because I don't think anybody would like it naturally. Or at least not like it as much as they like orange juice. But it's an acquired taste. Okay, so the one thing we did see though, and this is the last line we read, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines up in the bottom, right in the middle, aval nitfas iyu b'rusa d'Libah. That level of reality, atzmus, which can't be grasped in seichel, is grasped b'rusa d'Libah, whatever that is. Now, what it is called love. Love of the heart. The bechina umadrega zu, that this level, shemachshava eino tefeses bo, that machshava can't comprehend it, can't grasp it. How do you nitvas b'rus l'liba? That level is grasped b'rus l'liba. So now, whatever that level is, so the Rebbe just told us that level is atzmus, because relative to infinite reality, we can have a certain level of hasoga. It's called hasoga shlilis. Only relative to atzmus is it reasonable to say leis machshava tfisa beichlal. Okay, that's what we said. So therefore, whatever level we can't chap with seichel, that's the level that can be chapped on some level through ruus d'liba. Atzmus, amazing. The ruus d'liba dafka teifis bebechinas atzmus arein separ. Ruus d'liba does grasp atzmus. Okay, so what does that mean? Va'inyin bezehu. Kamavur ba'maimer sham. As the Frida Garba explains in his Maimer, again, the Rebbe said much of this is based on the Frida Garba's Maimer in Contrasing. The Bechlolis Inyan Ha'ava, in the idea of Ava, Shazel Ikar Avedus Ha'adam, that this is the essential Aveda of a person. Leis Pulchana Kapulchana Drechimusa, there is no service like the service of love, Zohar says. And even though Ikar, right, the Ikar of the Rashis and Ikar of Aveda is Yerushalayim, that's the start of it, Kabbalah Soul, but ultimately we're challenged to get to a level of Ava. If that's true Aveda, Yesh Beis Madrigas. There's 2 different levels in Ava. Generally it's called Ava Zuta, Ava Rabba. That's a smaller love, a greater love. Rabbi's going to explain it this way. Bechinas ha'ava habal yedei hisbeinus, begdulas v'aflos arein separuchu. The love that comes as a result of contemplation and meditation in the greatness and wonder of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's one level of ava. That comes through hisbeinus, contemplating the greatness of God. Ubechinas ha'ava, and the level of ava haba milamayla minaseichel, and the level of ava that comes L'mayla minaseichel. It's not a function of hisbeinus, something deeper. We'll see what that is. We already talked about it earlier in a slightly different context. We talked about it in terms of simcha. But now we're talking about it in terms of ava, and it's really what the mushal we brought of a parent. So that's that's the mushal excuse me, we'll put up with this and we'll make it through. That's the muscle the Rebbe is going to bring, the muscle of a parent and a child. The level beyond Seichel. Shaba va'al yoda, that through this level, yesh tfisa gamba b'chinas atzmos. A person can chap atzmos. A person can ultimately connect to the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu through that level called Berusa Deliba. Why? So we made it to the last page. Ukamei al derech Moshe. Like, for example, Hiskashrus Abeni Ma'av. Connection of the son to a father. With a father. She'ein al pitam v'das kol. Obviously, the connection of the child to a parent is not al pitam v'das. The child doesn't decide intellectually that his father is worth loving. It's not the way it works. The child has an essential connection to the parent. The option of Sifrei Musar, that even though it's explained in Sifrei Musar, now the Sifrei Musar that the Rebbe is explaining, they're referring to are not Sifrei Musar from the Musar movement, but rather Sifrei Musar. And if you look down in page in the footnote 34 of the Advanced, it says Chavos Alav Havos. Chavos Alav Havos, which is translated in English, one of the first books translated in English, called Duties of the Heart, by Rabbi Ibn Pakuda, who was an early Rishon before the Rambam. He wrote a sefer called Chavos Alav Havos, which Hasidim call the Ma'dura Kama de Baal Shem Tov. The first version of the Baal Shem Tov. You can't find anything in our library. So I would say, look for it, but you can't look for it because who knows where it is? Because we don't have a library yet per se. There's a bunch of books on the shelf, but most of our books are not on the shelf. So, if you look at his Hakdama, which you should do when you find the book, absolutely required reading the Hakdama, the introduction of the Chavos Alav Havos, he writes there, now he's writing 1,000 years ago, 500 years before the Baal Shem Tov. He's writing about the fact that people's Avodah is dry, and they do what they do by rote, and they don't have any feeling. And it's very important that they should have a connection, a relationship with the Eibush. Absolutely astounding. So, worth reading. So, in Chavos Alav Havos, when it talks about the Indian of Kivud Avim, that idea of bitachon that we talked about earlier in the Immerse, that whole sikha, the Rebbe, in the Chutei Sichos, is based on the Chavos Alav Havos. The Rebbe quotes the Chavos Alav Havos 3 times. Chavos Alav Havos wrote a section called Shar Bitachon, right? And in Shar Bitachon, there's a section, the reasons that one might come to Bitachon, meaning those things that will help a person come to Bitachon. And the Rebbe quotes him 3 times in that sikha, in terms of defining Bitachon. And the most important quote, and this is the Yesod of Bitachon as we learned it outside here, and how Chassidus learns it, is that the Eibishter will do good even to the one who doesn't deserve it. That was the line of the Chavos Alav Havos that has to be understood. Why should the Eibishter do good to someone who doesn't deserve it? Oh, because they deserve it as a result of their bitachon. That's how the Rebbe explains it in the Sikh. But that 3 times he quotes the Chavos Alav Havos. That even though Shemavur was Sifrei Musar, it's explained in Sifrei Musar Batam, the reason of Kivud Avim, why is it that someone might love their father or their mother, because they give them to eat, they give them to drink. So that's the halachic basis for the fact that I have to show appreciation and I have to treat them with respect. But that's not where the love comes from. Nevertheless, the love of the son for the father, is not mitzad the goodness that the father gives to the son. Because even if he doesn't, he still has a connection to him. But rather because he's one etzem with him. They share DNA. And that's the connection of a child to a parent. So even if the parent is if we talked about this earlier, it's abusive parent. And unfortunately there's such a thing in the world. So even the abusive parent, the child has a very hard time breaking away from that abusive parent because of the essential connection. I'll be tam v'das. Why ain't got anything to do with this person? If this is my next door neighbor, I have nothing to do with them, but it's not my next door neighbor. It's a father. So then that person is very, very powerfully connected to that father. That's etzem echad. So that's the second level of love. That's rusa de liba. Ulezois ain't tzarech al shumis beinus. There's no need for meditation. There's no need for contemplation. Why? There's a level of ava that comes to ma'ila mitam vadas. There is no reason for this love. In order to get to the point where I'm mature enough to appreciate my parents, so that takes these brainings. Kivrave. Generally, teenagers have a hard time doing it. Why? Well, because teenagers are teenagers. They're going through whatever they're going through. It's a strange creature, a teenager. Okay. Right? But at a certain point, when if that teenager grows up, so then they start to appreciate their parents. Right? What did Mark Twain say? Many, many things that were worthy of quoting. One of the things he said that's worthy of quoting, when I was 15, I thought my father was a real jerk. When I was 20, I was amazed at what the old man had learned in 5 years. Mark Twain has said some pretty smart things. Right? That the 20-year-old hopefully has an appreciation of what parents are about, so he's not going to be as obnoxious as the 15-year-old. The 15-year-old has to, it's some 15-year-olds are, some 15-year-olds aren't obnoxious. But that stage in life is where the person is starting to develop their own personality and their own independent personality. So sometimes that process is relatively painless. And sometimes that process is very, very difficult. Right? If it's very difficult, so the kid tends to be absolutely obnoxious. There's very few things more obnoxious than a 15-year-old. Okay, fine. Why? Because that's what they have to do in order to establish a certain amount of independence and certain space for themselves. Okay. As a parent, the person has to be aware of that and let them do that, and hopefully it'll be as painless as possible. Right? Okay. Sometimes it's like taking hair out of milk. It's all mushal for things that are easy, that go smoothly. And sometimes it's like taking cotton out of thorns. Things that don't go so smoothly. Depends on the 15-year-old, depends on the parents. Right? Okay. That's how happy the 15-year-old is, what feelings of security the 15-year-old has, self-assurance, self-confidence. If he's a fairly self-confident young man or woman, so then usually the process is relatively painless. But it's a necessary step in life, stage in life. Right? But the child still loves their parent. Right? And that's exactly why the parent will be the brunt of a lot of the angst of the child, if there is angst. So the parent will be the brunt of a lot of it. Why? Well, because of this incredibly powerful connection that the child has with the parent. And that's the second level of love, and that's called rusa de liba. That's coming from an essential connection, not from the first level of love, the Rebbe taught us, the sisbeinimos. So in this level, there's nothing to be misbeinin about. Again, there's something to be misbeinin about relative to my behavior. Right? Not allowed to contradict your parents. Okay? Your father says something outlandish, you're not supposed to say, Dad, I think you're wrong. It's an issur d'oraisa. Right? You can say, oh, that's interesting. I read an article in the newspaper yesterday that said actually something different. It's interesting. You can say that. Because he also might be interested in that article. You're not allowed to say, Dad, you're wrong. It's issur d'oraisa. It's like eating bacon. Okay. So a person, in order to reach that state, has to do some isbeinus to, understand how to act. Kivud aveim is yira is not contradicting them. Kivud is giving them food. Okay, whose food? Their food. You're visiting your parents' house, bring a cup of tea to your mother. Just did a mitzvah d'oraisa, same as putting on film. Mom, you want some tea? Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll make you a cup of tea. It's her tea. It's not be your tea. It's her tea. If it's not kosher and all that, then you have issues. It's not so simple to serve non-kosher food to Jews. So you have to be wary of that. So you can bring an apple, buy some kosher cake, and bring another piece of kosher cake. The tea, unless you want to make it in one of these cups. Why'd you bring in that cup? I like my cup. I don't know. That's all I could find. The tea's not the issue, usually. Okay. I said a funny thing. They had one of the shluchim from campus, we made a bar mitzvah Monday night. So I went, and one of the bachrim was talking about the bar mitzvah boy. I went out on Mitzvahim with him to give food to policemen and firemen in the area. They bought some food, and they took it around to different firehouses and different police stations. So they bought, I don't know, it's like a funny thing to do, but they bought tray food. I mean, why buy kosher food? There's no Jews there. I was wondering if there are, but anyway, that's a separate issue. So they bought non-kosher food. They went to some place, he mentioned the name of it, the student. We went to whatever it was. We bought a bunch of food. What was the comment of the bar mitzvah boy? Boy, treif is really inexpensive. He was like blown away how cheap it all was. Maybe they got some hamburgers. I mean, how much is a hamburger? Whatever. Cheap. Get kosher shchita. Okay. So the love of the child for the parent is mitzad etzem echad. And that's rusa deRava. And therefore there's no hisbeinenus. Shall yedei zeh deRava. That a person should be misbeinen, and through this hisbeinenus comes the love, fifth line. Ki'im, rather, mitzad etzem. It's an essential connection. The DNA of the Father and the DNA of the Son are the same. Ma she'etzem shel haben nemt es etzem shel ha'av. Nemt means to take. The etzem of the Son takes from the etzem of the Father. They have the same DNA. Ki ha'av v'benim davar echad, v'etzem echad mamish. It's the one thing. That level of iskashus, of the yid to the Eibishter, it's called rusa deRava. Yuvan. B'iskashus va'ava, the nishmas Yisrael be'elokus. It's also understood in the connection and the love of the Jewish soul to the Eibishter. So there's the first level that the Rebbe talked about on the previous page, is the level of hisbeinenus. A person is misbeinen, they contemplate, and that's the avodah of Ava comes from hisbeinenus. You sit down and contemplate, learn Chassidus, learn about the Eibishter, and hopefully that will arouse in me a love of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay. But the essential love of the Yid for the Eibishter is not based on that hisbeinenus. All that's doing is revealing the essential love. The essential love of the Yid comes from the fact that he has a nefesh elokis, and nefesh elokis is one with the Eibishter. It's a chelik elokam yimah. Va'avad nishmas Yisrael be'elokus sheyeshna b'chinas ha'ava haba milamayla min haseichel. It's beyond intellect. Leis machshava tvisa beichlal. And indeed, leis machshava tvisa beichlal. The love of a parent for a child. Yeah, the Rebbe is talking about is the love of the child for the parent, because we're talking about us and the Eibishter. Right? But if the flip side of that same relationship is completely l'mayla midam v'das, it doesn't make any sense. You've lived, just fun watching my children go through all this after we went through it. Right? So you've lived 35 years of your life without a particular roommate. You have other roommates. Say you have a wife and you have some kids. Say that, and all of a sudden you have another child. Right? And this child shows up. The child's a week old, and you can't imagine life without this child. I can't imagine life without this child. I don't have to imagine life without this child. I've lived 35 years without this child. My whole life has been without this child. Why in the world do I feel any connection whatsoever to this being? I don't know them. My whole life has been without them. Right? How can I possibly say that if, God forbid, something were to happen to them, my whole life would be changed in a way that I can't even imagine? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. It's not rational. It's just called love. That's what it's called. But it's also called an essential connection. It happens that way, hopefully, also with a wife. It's obviously a different connection. It's very different than children, very different than siblings. When Avram Avinu tells Sarah, tell them you're my sister. What's he saying? It's the panemius of all that, because it doesn't make any sense. The whole thing is crazy. And he does it a couple of times, and Yitzhak does it. What's the difference between a sister and a wife? A wife is a very, very, very passionate relationship. Very passionate, very powerful, but it's breakable. Theoretically, someone can become not husband and wife. Happens. There's a means in the Torah to make that happen, because it's not an essential connection. It's an incredibly powerful connection and an incredibly passionate connection, but it's not unbreakable. Brother, sister, no passion, but unbreakable. Can't not be my sister. She's my sister. That's just who she is. There's nothing I can do about that. I like her. I don't like her. She's nasty. She's wonderful. It has nothing to do with anything. My sister. And she'll be my sister forever. Why? Kaka. That's just, it just is. She's my sister. Didn't choose her. That doesn't mean I don't like her. I think she's wonderful beside her, but it has nothing to do with me. She's just my sister. It's an essential connection. And that's what Avram says to Sarah. Avram's the neshama and Sarah's the guf. And Avram says to Sarah that our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, sometimes it's ish v'isha. Sometimes it's very powerful, very passionate. But sometimes we reach points when we're going into places that are dark and dangerous. And what's the relationship have to be? A sister. Unbreakable. Less passionate, but unbreakable. And that's what Avram says to Sarah. We're going into Mitzrayim. Now you have to be my sister. Our relationship with the Eibishter has to be like a brother and sister. It's an unbreakable relationship. Nothing that's going to happen down here is going to affect our relationship with the Eibishter. Are we necessarily going to be able to express the passion of our relationship down here? No, might not be able to. That's ach and achers. So that's also father, mother, same thing. That's where ach and achers come from. So the level of Ru'usa the Liba is the level of the love that comes from essential connection to the Eibishter. V'hi anikros Ru'usa the Liba. Ma she'etzem the nishmas Yisrael nemt es etzem shelamayla. That the essence of the Yid takes the essence from above. That we're one with the Etzem. We're one with the Eibishter. We're chelek elokam mimal mamish. We're a little piece of Eibishter. Tzemach Tzedek was once having a conversation with a philosopher, whether or not, I always got the feeling that this was someone that he had conversations with all the time, but I'm not sure. And the philosopher said that he can prove that the Rebbe is wrong and that God's not omnipotent. God's not all powerful. Okay. What now? So he said something very, very fascinating. Usually when people have this issue, they quote this ridiculous tautology, can God create a rock that he can't pick up, which is just stupid. That's just infantile, because that's, where does such a question come from? An understanding of an infinite God. But we know God's not infinite. God's light is infinite, but God isn't. Right? So an infinite God would have a hard time being in two places at once, so to speak. What can we say about the Eibishter and not bat an eyelash? Yes, God did create the rock and then he could pick it up. It's not a problem. The Eibishter is not limited by anything. So how does the Rashba refer to the Eibishter? Nimna ha-nimna'ot, the paradox of paradoxes. Okay. So yes, God could create the rock, and yes, he could pick it up, and that's just stupid, that one. This one is better. He said, I can prove to you that God's not omnipotent. He said, why? Can't create another God. Ooh, that's a good one. Can't create another God. If there's another God, then God's not God, because God's one. Interesting. So Tzedek said to me, did. It's called the Yid. It's a Jew, a little piece of the Eibishter. And the Tzemach wasn't saying that to win an argument or to make a joke. You're seeing it right here. What's a Yid? And that includes the Yid whose teeth I brush, not just all the other ones. a little chelik elokam imal mamish, a piece of Elokus. It's one with the etzem of the Yibsh. So leis machshava tvisa beichlal, no thought can comprehend it. But if a person can transcend their intellect, which means getting out of themselves, getting out of their the nefesh habahamis. But even the intellect of their nefesh elokis isn't going to get them there. They have to get to a place higher than that, which is their etzem, the level of etzem and the neshama, the essence of their soul, which is one with the essence of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Hainu shabav al yada yesh tfisa kama b'chinas atzmus. Okay, so what's that got to do? Very beautiful, beautiful idea. I hope it's a beautiful idea. I hope you appreciate the idea. Okay. So what's that got to do with our question? Our question is, and we're trying to answer our question, and that's the next line. Oh, now I understand. What are we trying to understand? Why is it that there has to be tshuva before my learning of Torah is real? Learning Torah is intellectual. So I should sit and learn Torah. It's an intellectual. I remember hearing someone say, it's a horrible thing to say, but I mean, this is what he said. Someone who came to Yeshiva and was very excited and sat in Yeshiva and got from and blah, blah, blah. He said, wow, learning Gemara is like intellectual push-ups. Okay. Meaning he really enjoyed the intellectual expression and stimulation and challenge. It's definitely an intellectual challenge, there's no doubt about that. Learning a page of Gemara is pretty tough stuff. Let's see what this has to do with our mind. Bezel, and this the Rebbe says is tachlis chochma tshuva ma'aseh. Ki hine iker v'tachlis chochma deTorah. The ultimate purpose of the chochma of Torah, the reason you and I sit and learn Torah. Of course, we have to learn information. That's not why we learn Torah. We're not learning Torah for information. Why are we learning Torah? We get information, get all sorts of good stuff. But why are we learning Torah? And in the context of your lives, why are you learning how to learn Torah? Because if you don't learn how to learn Torah, then learning Torah will not be an essential part of your life, because no one likes to do things that they're not good at. Right? You want to play tennis? Yeah, sure. You any good? I don't know, I never tried. Well, probably not going to enjoy it very much. Right? You know, if you know how to do something and you watch people out there who don't know how to do it, you know, go to the tennis court and watch people who never played tennis before and they hit the ball once and then they chase it. Like, why is this in any way, shape, or form enjoyable? What enjoyment are they getting out of this?
You have to start somewhere.
Oh, Beseder, 100%. I understand, but it can't. You know, it doesn't look very enjoyable, right? I agree. If you've decided this is something that's an important thing to do for whatever reason, so you're right. You have to start somewhere. But why start? I mean, this isn't enjoyable, but okay, I get it. Remember my grandfather, Olav Shalom. He used to come out. We had my father, Olav Shalom, paid some guy to pave our his driveway. It was his driveway because there was a garage for his car, and he paved it perfectly flat. And my father put up a backboard and a hoop, 10 feet tall, and there was a foul line 15 feet away, and we had the neighborhood basketball court behind our house. Everybody used to come and we'd play 3-on-3 basketball right there. My father came home from work, we'd all move out of the way. Everybody would wave, we'd open the garage door. It wasn't automatic. We'd open up the door, he'd put in his car, we'd let him out first, then we'd close the door and we'd go back to our game. I think there was a door on the side, but I don't think you could get out that way. I mean, theoretically, you should have been able to, but I think they covered up with all sorts of stuff. So we used to play a lot of basketball in the back. It was a lot of fun. Our grandfather used to come visit from Toronto every summer, and sometimes during the winter he'd come visit, and he'd come out and he'd watch us. And we were 10 years old, 12 years old, 13. So how good were we? So we could hit, 30% of the time we shot the ball and go in the hoop. 40% is like really good, right? I think the pros are 50, 60, I don't know, whatever. We get the ball in there now and then, but we also miss. We missed more than we made it. It had a net and everything. And if the ball got behind the backboard, so there was a way to climb up on the garage roof and go back. And that was always fun, because then you'd stand up there and people would throw the ball and you'd dunk it into it. It was nice being 15 feet tall. So he would watch us and he'd say, you guys are no good. I said, what do you mean, Gramps? What do you mean we're no good? You keep missing. I said, this is hard. What do you mean it's a hard thing to do? Nah! What do you mean? I see when your father watches the guys on television, they just throw it up, it goes right in. It can't be so hard. You guys, you're missing all the time. You guys are no good. We couldn't. He said, you take the ball. He said, I'm an 80-year-old man. I'm going to know how to do this. Couldn't convince him that really we weren't so good, but we weren't so bad. He figured we should all be Sam Jones of the Boston Celtics, shooting it.
Your father watches
He would not. The only team that was ever on television was the Boston Celtics in those days. We're talking the 60s. The only team ever on television. There was one game a week, Sunday, and it would be the Boston Celtics against someone.
Why?
Well, because they were so much better than everybody else. They won every year. They won like 10. They won 10 or 12 out of 13. They won every year.
You grew up in Canada?
Yeah. We had American channel. We were next to Seattle, so we had ABC, NBC, and CBS from Seattle. So we had a better TV than Seattle because we also had 2 Canadian channels. So we could watch the hockey on the Canadian channels and the American football on the American channels. But yeah, no, the Celtics won every year. So they were. Also, the baseball game every week was the New York Yankees. Every week. You watch the Yankees playing someone. Every week. Every now and then there would be a different one, but I mean, basically it was watching the New York Yankees play someone. It's just, what was baseball for your average American? New York Yankees. Who hadn't heard of the New York Yankees?
Sweet medicine.
You ever heard of the Cleveland Indians? No, I've never heard of the Cleveland Indians. Why would you know them? Everybody heard of the New York Yankees.
They happened to be the team that played against the Yankees.
But it was always the Boston Celtics. And usually it was in Boston, they had this cool floor. It wasn't flat heavy. It was like I think they call it parquet. It was like wood slats going different directions. It was a beautiful floor to watch the Celtics play. And they would always put the ball in the hoop. So my grandfather couldn't put it. Why can't we put the ball in the hoop? So, why do we want to know how to learn Torah? Because we want to be able to learn Torah, so that we'll do it. Because if I don't know how to do it, why would I do something that I find frustrating? I'm going to pick up I'll read something on the internet, an article about who knows what. I might even read an article about Torah, but studying Torah itself, if it's something I can't do, I won't. Which is why it's so important to learn how to do it. What's the ultimate purpose of sitting down and learning a page of Gemara? Also Chassidus, also halacha, but also a page of Gemara. He leaped for his atzmus on ein sof. Neis in the Torah is the chap, the Eibishter. Neis in the Torah, the one who gives the Torah. Atzmus. And then how do we know Atzmus gave the Torah? Noichi. We learned it in V'yadaber. Anoichi is Ana Nafshi Kosvis Yovis. I myself wrote it, gave it. I myself am written into it and given into it. V'yin Zeh. How is it that when I learn Torah properly? Only al yedei avodas tshuva. I can't learn Torah properly until I understand what it means to learn Torah. And what it means to learn Torah is to chap atzmos. And as long as Torah is just an intellectual enterprise, and I'm learning it because I want to know more, etc., so then that's not tachlis achol, that's not the ultimate purpose of learning Torah. That doesn't mean I'm not learning Torah. Doing something very, very useful, very good. I'm not learning Torah in the ultimate way, though. The ultimate way of learning Torah is connecting to the essence of the Eibishter. How do I do that? I have to do tshuva. I have to realize what learning Torah is. While yedei avodas tshuva. That's why Rashi says, she'ima tshuva. Sheba mizgala. Through this process of tshuva, what's revealed? What does the Jew reveal in himself? Ha'ava atzmis, the essential love, the Yisrael l'Kadosh Baruch. Essential love of the Yid for the Eibishter. If the Yid doesn't experience the love of the child for the parent, so then his learning of Torah is amazing, it's incredible, but it's not the ultimate. It's not tachlis. Ka'avas ben elav, like the love of the child for the father. What's Torah? Torah is a letter from the Eibishter to us. Torah is a letter from home. Torah is a letter from our Tati. Our Tati wrote us a letter. We're far away from him. He sends the neshama far, far, far away. But he writes the neshama a letter. How are you? What's happening? This is what's going on at home. Things are okay over there. Right? Oh, that's Torah. So every time a person opens up Torah, what are they opening up? A letter from their Tati, who loves them. And what does that arouse in them, hopefully? Their love for their father. And then they sit down and they learn Torah. Rabbi Pekarsky, all of Shalom's Rosh Yeshiva in 770. He was a ger chassid. He was a chassid, the Rebbe, but he was a ger chassid.
Is this the same Pekarsky as the rabbi?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there might be some familial connection, but I don't think so. So Rabbi Pekarsky was a ger chassid, and he lived in Borough Park, but he was Rosh Yeshiva in 770. He's buried here in Har Menuchos.
Wow. Passed
Away 35 years ago, or something like that. Long time. But he used to come to the Rebbe for Simchas Torah. He used to walk from Borough Park into Crown Heights for Simchas Torah, and he would dance all day and something. And once he followed the Rebbe up the stairs after Simchas Torah, and he what's the Rebbe doing? Now the Rebbe Simchas Torah it's 2 days. It's over 48 hours of non-stop activity. Non-stop for bring-ins, dancing. Non-stop. Push it non-stop. I say the Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah. The Rebbe's for bringing, the Rebbe's dancing, the hakafas. Non-stop. So, and Erev was also Shana Rabbah. Sometimes if the Rebbe didn't finish giving out lekach on Erev Kippur, so the Rebbe would give out more lekach, the honey cake on Erev Shana Rabbah. Non-stop for 45, 50, 56 hours, who knows? Then after Simchas Torah was Keshel Bracha. So that in the early years was a couple of hours, in the later years it was 5-6 hours. So everybody from all over the New York area would come because you could get there, you could finish your Yom Tov, get in your car, drive to Crown Heights. It's going to be going on for hours.
What is this?
Keshel Bracha, the Rebbe giving out wine after Yom Tov for his Havdalah. You see videos of it, very amazing experience. So Rabbi Pekarsky stayed the whole thing, and then he followed the Rebbe upstairs after 55 hours of non-stop. So I'm like, what's the Rebbe do next? The Rebbe went into the office, and Rabbi Pekarsky, and the Rebbe closed the door. Rabbi Pekarsky looked through the keyhole. The Rebbe walked over to the Rebbe took off his hat. Walked over to the bookshelf, pulled down a Gemara. They say it was Sanhedrin. I don't know whether that's true, that's not true, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, the Rebbe took a Gemara off the shelf, put it on the table, sat down. He said the Rebbe took a deep breath and started hanging out with the Kosh Baruch. Started learning Gemara. After all that, I once asked Rabbi Gurney what the Rebbe does in the room all day. He said, he learns Torah. What do you think he does? But how does he have time to run the world? He said, he has time to run the world. He does that too. There's Torah all day. So what does it mean to learn Torah? I don't understand what learning Torah means. This is what the Rebbe is telling us. Until I've done tshuva. Until I appreciate the fact that Torah is a letter from Tati. It's a letter from home. I used to work, I still work in the same, but the faxes are now no longer of any relevance, right? And before smartphones and all that. So people used to write letters. Remember in Yeshiva, when I was a Baruch in Yeshiva, so everybody, Friday afternoon, before you went to the mikveh, before Shabbos, everybody would sit in their room and they'd write a letter home. And write the parents, write a letter home, what's happening, tell what happened this week. They had these things called aerograms, so you could write on it, and then it folded up, and you just put it in the mailbox. It wasn't like you put a piece of paper in an envelope with a stamp. It had its own stamp. You buy 10 of those, you'd write on it, it folded into 3, and then the sides went like that, and off it would go. Yeah, great idea. Irrelevant now, but great idea in those days, right? Great idea. It's called an aerogram. So everybody would sit with their aerograms and write home, right? And when you got a letter from home, oh my goodness gracious, it was so exciting. Not much exciting. Every day, everybody would, when the mail came, everybody was looking, get a letter.
That's summer camp stuff.
Yeah. So in this SEM, there was a fax. I used to teach the girls at, I think, 2:30 in the afternoon. That was the first class in the afternoon. So, and I used to be hanging around the office also. Talk to girls and things. So, when the faxes came in, I would sort through the faxes. 7 in the morning, New York time. Sometimes parents would write, send the fax, and then the girls would get it at 2:30, 3 o'clock, whenever our class started, I remember. So, this was the excitement of excitement. Did I get a fax? Fax from home. Unbelievable. All this instant communication has taken away the pleasure of those sort of things. And it's replaced with something else, okay? But that pleasure was a special pleasure. Get a letter or something, okay. You look at the mailbox, it wouldn't just be bills. It might be a letter from someone. Okay. So the Torah is a letter from home. Everybody was so excited. There was one girl who used to get a full page letter, handwritten by her father, top to bottom, every day. First of all, what has he got to say? Second of all, I remember we were talking about it because I said that the other teachers, this gets up. Full page, handwritten full page.
Wow.
What can you say every day? Anyway, we figured this girl will never get married. She said, this connection is a little too much. There's still an umbilical cord here. This is too much. She was engaged 3 months after she left Sam. She was the first girl that got engaged. We were all shocked after this. Baruch Hashem. I wonder what happened to her now. This was 22 years ago. 20? 30. Shoot. No, 20. Samach base.
Would she write back every day, or she would just?
I don't know. I didn't send the fax. I couldn't send. I guess I could send faxes, but I think the secretary sent the faxes. I would just go to the fax machine and take them off. It was plain paper. Plain paper fax. So there'd just be a pile of faxes, and I'd look through them if they were for any of the girls, and I'd take them. First, I gave them out at the beginning of class, and I realized, that's a terrible mistake. So I have them. I say, I have faxes here. Everybody who behaves nicely during class will get their fax, and then I give it at the end. But it was so interesting that the excitement of getting a letter from home. Well, that's Torah. The Rebbe says that's Torah. Tachlis Chochmah is realizing that the Torah is a letter from our Tati, and I can only appreciate that if I've done tshuva. That's why Tachlis Chochmah is ima tshuva ma'asim tovim. Learning Torah im she'ima tshuva is what Rashi said. Because if I don't appreciate the fact that Torah is pashut the Eibishter, and I'm able to express my essential love for the Eibishter by learning his Torah, so then I'm not expressing the most powerful reality of Talmud Torah. That doesn't mean what I'm doing is a waste of time, anything but. But it's not Tachlis. Not the ultimate. Ka'avas haben elav u'kanal, fourth line. Geleis machshava tvisa beichlal. No thought can comprehend atzmus. Aval nikvasi u'brudusa v'lima. How do I chop atzmus? Love. Te'iyu, he, shehu bechinas atzmusay, which is the quality of the Eibishter's essence. Nitfas dafka al yedei rusa v'lima. Is connected to through Uruz Liba, the revelation of the essential connection of the Yid to the Eibishter. V'lochein, therefore, al yedei hakdamas tshuva, through the preceding of tshuva, ba gama tachlis de chokhmah. It comes the ultimate purpose of Chachma, the ultimate expression of Chachma, not so much the purpose, expression, shegam al yedea teifsim batzmus. That even through Chachma, you can chap atzmus. How do you chap atzmus through Chachma? That we said, leis machshavat yisbei chlal. You chap atzmus through Chachma because you're sitting and learning Torah, which is the Eibishter. And when you chap that the Eibishter, this is mamish the etzem of the Eibishter, and the Eibishter wants you to sit and learn his Torah, and you're learning the Torah because you feel this incredibly powerful love for the Eibishter. So then even through this intellectual endeavor, you're chapping atzmus. Then not only is there a grasping of the essence of the Eibishter, Ella, even more, becomes one with atzmus. It's inseparable from atzmus. Why? What does Chazal say? Yisrael l'reis of kuchu bichu kul echad. Mamish. The mamish is the Rebbe added. The Medrash, the Zohar says simply that they are one. Sorry. That the Eibishter, the Torah, the Jews, the Torah and the Eibishter are one. How? The Yisrael. Al Yedei Raisa, that Am Yisrael, through the agency of Torah. Down here. Up there. So we're one with the Eibishter, and we're on a higher level than Torah. The Yid is higher than Torah. Nishmas Yisrael comes from a higher, lower. You can't really talk about that in Atzmos Beseder, but so to speak, what comes first, Nishmas Yisrael or Raisa? So the famous Medrash, Rashi, Bereshis Bar Elokim. Rashi quotes the Medrash Rabbah. Base ratios, two firsts, two ratiuses. What are those two ratiuses? Torah and Nishmas Yisrael. Those are the two things that precede the creation of the world. Oh, so that's Bereshis Rabbah, and that's what Rashi quotes on Chumash. Pasuk Aleph. The Tana de Belial, another Medrash, asks the next question: which of those is first, Yisrael or Torah? And the Medrash says Yisrael. Shekosav b'Torah daber al b'nei Yisrael. Torah is talking to the Jewish people, so it must be they're there, so to speak. Okay, very nice. What does that mean? That means something extremely important, and to a certain degree, all of Chassidus, in terms of how Chassidus understands what a Yid is about, is based on that Medrash. Lav Dafka says it, but that's what it is. It does say it in different places. If the Torah is first and then the Yid, so then what is the Eibusher really interested in? Torah. What's a Yid? A Yid is that being that is created, that exists, in order to fulfill the Torah. Because what's the Eibusher really interested in? Torah. That's the first thing, so to speak. That's the dearest thing in his eyes. And then there's this people called Am Yisrael, and Am Yisrael are those people that exist in order to keep the Torah. So what about a Yid who doesn't keep the Torah? So he's a bracha levatol. It's a waste of time. Because what's the Eibusher interested in? Torah. So a Yid who doesn't keep the Torah is a waste of time. I mean, why are you created, b'chlal? The only reason you're created is to keep the Torah, so... But what if the Yid is first? So then, what's the Eibusher really interested in? The Yid. What's the Torah? The Torah is that which the Eibusher put in the world in order to allow the Yid to express who he is even down here. To allow you and I to connect to our essential existence even while we're down here, which is really quite astounding. That's what the Rebbe just told us. Down here, your machshava can chap atzmus. How? Torah. Torah allows your neshama down here to chap atzmus. Even though mitzad itself it can't, but through Torah it can. Because you sit and learn Torah with the right intention, with the right understanding of what Torah is all about, so then you're chapping atzmus. You're sitting in b'chavrusa with the Eibusher himself. Okay. So what about a Jew who doesn't keep Torah? Still a Jew. Still the dearest thing in the eyes of the Eibusher. It's just a big fisfus. Just wait. It's a chabad. He's wasting all that potential. It doesn't mean he isn't what he is. What is he? He's the dearest thing in the eyes of the Eibusher. He's not expressing that down here in Elam Hazeh. He still is that. He's just not expressing it like a child to a parent. And that's what this is based on also. Yes, the Yidden connect to the Eibishter through Torah. That's what the Rebbe just told us. But that's down here. Down here, the only way a Yid can connect to the Etzem, the Eibishter, is through Torah. There is no other way. The reason he can do that is because he has the essential connection in the first place, up there, so to speak. And that essential connection transcends Torah. What's the Torah? The Torah is the vehicle for revealing that essential connection down here. And that's why the Tana Rabbi Eliyahu says that first there was the Yid and then the Torah. The Medrash, the Rashi quotes, doesn't talk about it. The Bereshit Rabbah doesn't talk about it. It just says there's two things. It doesn't say which is first. The Tana Rabbi Eliyahu asks the next question. Wow. Yisrael ha'yidei ha'raisa nisachti mamish liyos etzem echad im atzmos. That Yisrael, through learning Torah, are united to be one with the etzem of the Eibishter. Wow. The tshuva zu peles gamba ma'asim. This also affects our deeds. If we go 5 minutes, we can finish the Maimer. Then Sunday we'll do a one-off. U'tshuva zu peles gamba ma'asim. Kemavur become becomes a perish aloshin tshuva u'maisim David. Tshuva and maisim David. Always not first tshuva, then maisim David. What are maisim David and tshuva? Always tshuva and maisim David. What does tshuva do? Turns the maasim into maisim David. What's teiv? What does teiv mean? Don't say good. What does teiv mean? What does the Eibishter say at the end of every day when things are as he wants it to be? Teiv. Teiv is what the Eibishter wants. Teiv is things in line with what the Eibishter thinks it should be. Oh, that's Teiv. How do you take your maasim, your deeds, good deeds, mitzvahs? How do you make the maasim tovim, maisim Tevim, deeds that are in line with the ultimate purpose that the Eibishter had in mind? Only through truth. Only through realizing that it's all about the Eibishter, it's not about me. Right? One thing Chassidus tries to drill into our head over and over and over and over and over again. And we talk about it all the time, especially with that creature called Balei Tshuva. Why? Because Balei Tshuva comes in with a very gayish understanding of spirituality. Perfectly reasonable, right? Why? What other understanding would he possibly have, right? I mean, that's right, makes perfect sense. It's not bad, it's just reality. So, gayish understanding spirituality is what what can I get from it? Other of it. It's a big seller today towards a meaningful life. It's a good book. Not that it's not a good book.
What is? What is a good seller?
A good book toward a meaningful life.
Oh.
Simon Jacobson's book. Even what's his name? There's that guy used to be on Fox, but now I think they kicked him off. Glenn Beck. So Glenn Beck loves that book. He sells that book all the time. Good. What's that book all about? Meaningful life. Okay, so who's the life meaningful for? Me. Not that that's bad. Of course I'm going to start there. Right? What am I looking for? Meaning? Okay, at a certain point, I have to stop looking for meaning, or I have to look for God. What's this about? It's about God, it's not about me. Obviously, I'm the one doing it, and yes, it's not like I have to concentrate on me. I'm going to be thinking about me anyway, all the time. I have to concentrate on trying to get away from that and think about the Eibishter. Why are you doing Torah mitzvahs? Because the Eibishter likes it. Oh, but it elevates me. Good, I'm glad it elevates you. That's good. It's good. It's terrific. It's amazing. It should elevate you. But that's not the reason to do Torah mitzvahs. The reason to Torah mitzvahs, the Eibishter likes Torah mitzvahs. Why does he like Torah mitzvahs? I don't know. He likes Torah mitzvahs. The Eibishter likes us wrapping black leather straps and black boxes on ourselves. That's pretty funky. Baruch Hashem, he's not into studs in our tongue, or we all have studs in our tongue. But no, he's only into black leather. Okay. Fine. We walk around these bizarre clothes. It's okay. Why? That seems to be what he likes. Okay. Why? Because it's about him. So, how do I get my maasim to be maisim teivim? Tshuva. Tshuva zu peles gamba maisim. K'mavur become becomes beperish aloshin tshuva maisim teivim. The gama maisim, even those deeds, asher lifnei tshuva, before tshuva, Nikraim b'shem Maasim, they're called Maasim, deeds, al pi Torah's emes. The Torah calls them deeds. What does that mean? Hainu shemachsim chashuvim, they're important acts. And what's that? Ma'aseh mitzvahs. They're Maasim. It's not talking about ordering a hot dog at some hot dog stand, Ma'asim Tevim. No, we're talking about doing mitzvahs. How do I turn the mitzvahs into Ma'asim Tevim? How do I turn the mitzvahs into how do I take the Ma'aseh, the important behavior, and turn it into behavior that's Tev, that's mamish in line with the Eibishter's Ratzon, tshuva. And what's that tshuva? It's about him and not about me. Why are you doing mitzvahs? God likes mitzvahs. Why does he like mitzvahs? I don't know. It's my business why he likes mitzvahs. What's it got to do with me? God likes mitzvahs. Which ones? All of them. He likes all of them. No, I like this one better than that one. Okay, so we'll get a life. This isn't about you, it's about him. Okay, so try to do them all. Right? There's some that we find easier to do and are more naturally connected to. Okay, so it might very well be that we're going to spend more energy doing that one just because we're naturally inclined to do that, and we might do a better job at it. Okay, to say. That being said, it might be very, very important to do the other one because that's really, you're doing that one for the Eibishter as opposed to yourself. You don't get any kick out of that one. Okay, so do it. Why? Because the Eibishter gets a kick. Why? I don't know. What's it got to do with me? The Eibishter likes it. Mikol Makam al Yidei Tshuva Dafka in Nasim Tevim U'Meirim, they become good and illuminating. Shemeir Behem Erda Torah, that it shines in them the light of Torah. Va'ad Shemeir Behem Bechinas HaMa'or Shebetorah, until it shines in them the level, not only the light of Torah, but the Ma'or Shebetorah, the luminary of Torah, which is the source of the light, beyond the light, the Etzem Torah, the essence of the Torah. The Ma'or is beyond the Or. We talked about yesterday, the sun. Ubefrat, especially, Al Pi HaMavuar, Ha'amayim Rishon, the Inyan, Ma'asim Tevim, U'yin Tamchim D'Raisa. What's the ultimate Ma'asim Tevim? Supporting Torah learning. Tzedakah. Shenoisnim tzedakah, b'mameinim, b'gufam. They give tzedakah with their money and with their body. B'tircha gedayla, with great effort. B'shvil lemdei Torah, for the sake of people who are learning Torah. U'keidua gam be'inyan v'temchea mu'ushar. The pasuk in Mishlei say the ones who support it are happy. Mu'ushar, ashrei yoshvei. So what's the drasha? In the Zohar, al tikre mu'ushar ela mi reishe, same letters, mi reishe. Who's first? Who's at the head? The one learning the Torah, the one supporting the Torah, the one supporting the Torah. Shal yidei tzedakah bishvil Torah meir ben bechinas ha'ma'or shebetorah. Also through giving tzedakah for the sake of Torah, it shines in them the ma'or shebetorah. That doesn't mean the person doesn't have to learn. He also should give tzedakah. V'zeu gam ma she'amru Razal gedei l'tzedakah she'mutaravis is a geula. Greatest tzedakah that brings the geula. This is the Rabbi told us that in all of our deeds we can think about Mashiach, and even when we're giving tzedakah, we should say this to ourselves before we give tzedakah in order to connect the giving of tzedakah to the bringing of Mashiach. The Gemara in Rabbi Basra that says greatest tzedakah that it brings close to the geula. Ubefrat al pi mavur b'Tanya, particularly based on that which is explained in Tanya. B'maylas inyan at tzedakah shayidei tzedakah adam naisin is chay nafshay. The tremendous level of tzedakah that through tzedakah a person gives his own life. Right? Why? Kiba pruta, with this pruta that he's giving to tzedakah, yochol litnes es chay nafshay. He could buy food for himself. He could buy things that take care of his physical life, but he's giving it away to take care of someone else. V'chein alanu so it should be for us. Shayidei aveda hanal, through this aveda. Ba'im el geula, we come to the geula. Shinyana bittul kol medidas v'agbalas, the nullification of all limitation. K'mavur b'maimer shalach reizeh, as is explained in the Mimer after this, in the Friedrich Rebbe's Mimer, after the Mimer, that this is based on the next Mimer, being Prozes Teishev Yerushalayim, Prozes, expansiveness, will dwell in Yerushalayim, the famous song, Prozes Teishev Yerushalayim, Bim Hedev Yemeinu, Mamish Ubagol Gidon, in our case. Okay. I hope this is a Mimer that you don't put away. When you learn a mimer, if you learn it once, it makes no impression whatsoever on you. If you learn it 10 times, it'll make an impression. So don't put it away and say, okay, that one's done. And that's a big, there's a Yetzer Hara to do that because I said, look, there's so much I don't know. So I mean, I can't go do a review on what I learned. I have to go learn a new one. No, go learn the one that you learned. Learn it again, learn it again, learn it again. There's a chassid who, Rabbi Marash, it's a certain mimer that he was learning 40 times. I think the Rabbi Marash told him to learn the mimer 40 times. I think so. And the chassid said for the rest of his life, everything he saw in life was through the mirror of that mimer. Everything came through that looking glass. Learn a mimer, you live the mimer. To live a mimer, learning it once, not gonna work. Especially this, simcha. This mimer teaches us two things that are absolutely essential in our Vedas Hashem. The first part of the mimer, simcha. The second part of the mimer, what's Talmud Torah? What's Talmud Torah all about? I'm gonna work hard and I'll get to the next class.
Woo!
Okay, that's not, I mean, okay, that's important, I should do that, but as someone who teaches, now I don't have a Gemara class, but Bezrat Hashem I will, and after, the summer program, I've always have had a Gemara class. So there'll be guys who, a week after the Gemara class, are already talking to me, when can I move up? Just sit and learn. So on one hand, it's good, yes, push yourself. But on the other hand, just sit and learn Torah. When you're learning Torah, what are you doing? You're connecting with Yeshiva. What aspect of Yeshiva? Yeshiva himself. Because he wrote himself into the Torah. Why did he do that? I don't know. He wanted to be good for us, good to us. He gave us the ultimate gift, himself. He gave us himself. So we can live life about ourselves, or we can live life about him. Mentioned already before, the most simchatic people I know are the ones who live life for him and not for themselves. There's a lot of miserable people who are busy. See, if I live life for myself, so then I'm basically in competition with 8 billion people. Because none of them is living life for me. I'm the only one living life for me. So I'm in competition with them. Because they don't think life is about me. They think life is about something else. Maybe them, or whatever. But if I live life for something a little more grand than simply me, so then I'm not in competition with anybody. There might even be people who I share that interest with. No one lives life for me. Except me. If I miss the time. It's just we're just bumper cars bumping into each other in